Hello, my name is Charles Russell, and I'm doing a series of videos on JavaScript, and this is the second part of my discussion on operators. So, we're going to talk about logicals, and in order to discuss logicals, we have to discuss what is the truth. And in this discussion, I've got a little quote from Lewis Carroll that will really make sense to you. And this applies to a lot of things in JavaScript. He said, "I'm not strange, weird, off, nor crazy. My reality is just different from yours." You'll find this a lot in JavaScript. In JavaScript, you can do almost anything you can do in other languages. However, the way you get there, it may be a little different. So here's an example. You would expect that if you had a logical operator, it's going to return a Boolean. But it may or may not. That's because in this language you have something called shortcut evaluation. So evaluation of an expression, a logical expression, is going to be done from left to right. And now a value is going to be returned as soon as an evaluation can be made. Remember that truthy or falsy stuff from discussion of Boolean data types? Well, it's going to be applied here. The truthiness or falsiness of any value can be determined, no matter what its type. That means that a value that is not a Boolean can be returned, and the truthiness or falsiness of that expression can be evaluated. So let's start with the logical AND. So this is going to be true only if both operands are true. So if A is truthy, we have to evaluate B to see if it's truthy. So it will return B. So if B is false, then we can assume that the whole expression is false. If B is true, then we can assume that it's true. Now, like I said, remember, B is returned, the type is unchanged. So I said truthy or falsy because it won't be a Boolean true or false. This is often used to guard whatever B is contained. Whatever B is contained. So where there's an AND, there must be an OR. So the OR is sort of the opposite. It's going to be falsy. If A is falsy, then B will return. Remember that this makes sense because if A is truthy or B is truthy is what it's looking for. If A is falsy, truthy, we don't need to evaluate any further. We can just return A. And then we can determine from that the truthy or falsiness of the entire operation. This is really useful if you want to check to see if something exists inside of a variable set inside an object, or if a parameter, we'll talk about those as being passed into a function. It's really kind of a useful thing. Now this is one of the simplest operators I'm going to talk about. Not. It's just going to reverse the truthiness or falsiness of an expression. So if something is true, this operator will change it to false. If something is false, it will change it to true. Now, these are the bitwise operators. I'm going to really limit my discussion of them. I would like to say a couple of things about it before I leave it, though. First, when I first started learning JavaScript, it was considered something to avoid. Way it was explained to me that bit twiddling improves efficiency in other languages, but in this one, the performance was actually degraded. This paradigm seems to be changing. I read an article a little bit ago about the performance of JavaScript from this site, and he makes the case that as improvements have been made in the browsers, JavaScript's ability to handle bit manipulation has improved. So if it's been improved and you want to do cool experiment with it, I would go to these two sites, Michael at blogs.com, or Michael B, I should say. Anyway, when you get into that, if you go to this URL, he gives you a actual listing of things that can be done. And there's even a bigger list available at the second link, but it's less JavaScript specific. So this is going to bring us to the conditional operator. This is that ternary operator I was talking about at the beginning. I think it takes 3 operands. And it works sort of like this. If operand 1 evaluates to true, then do the action specified by operand 2. Otherwise, do the action specified by operand 3. And it looks sort of just like that. If you have operand 1, there's a question mark, then there's an operand 2, a colon, then operand 3. So operand 1 is the Boolean value, like I just said. Do the action specified in operand 2, else do the action specified 3, just as I said in the earlier statement. I'm kind of repeating myself, but there it is. Grouping. What this allows you to do is change the order of operations. So anything that's inside a group is going to be performed before anything outside of that group. Now, there are a lot of other operators. Things like delete and in and other things. But these have to do with functions, arrays, other objects. And so I will leave those discussions until it's appropriate. We've already done that sort of like when we talked about the type of operator. So as it's appropriate into our discussion in this language, I'll bring these other operators up. But let's take a look at the operators we did discuss here and the order in which the precedence applies. So here's the operators we've discussed in these videos. I excluded the type of, but it would be in here if I was doing a full listing of precedents. Again, the way this works is you go from top is the highest order of precedence, and the bottom is the lowest precedence. And anything on the same level will be evaluated from left to right. Now, normally at this point, I would have a summary slide. But we covered a lot of ground in these two videos. So I think that for now, we'll just put a really quick summary to say that, yeah, you need, without operators, you can't do anything in programming at all. This is the basis of forming any expression you have. And I think that's enough said on that for now. On the next one, we're going to start doing getting into comments. I'm going to try to get into branching and perhaps if there is enough time left, we will get into the iteration or looping. We'll see how that goes. Anyway, until we start that video, goodbye and have a good time.